Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for R.I.P.D. 2. It's a movie starring the dude that stars in Burn Notice, as well as he had a pretty cool part in Man of Wrath. And it also co-stars some other chick from something I don't remember, and then has more prominent roles for a couple of other people. And then, like, a guy that you've seen in a bunch of things, but you're like, I don't know his name or what things I've seen in him, but I've seen him in things. He's the bad guy, so to speak. So yeah, welcome. This movie it's called R.I.P.D. 2, like Rise of the Covenant or Rise of Bad Things or something. I don't remember the subline or subtitle or whatever. But let me just tell you, it's a little weird to call it R.I.P.D. 2 because without the words like origin of guy from R.I.P.D. 1 in it. So, because that's what it is. It is the origin story of Jeff Bridges' character. Now, do we get an explanation for why Jeff Bridges in that movie looked older, like as Jeff Bridges does, than the guy from Burn Notice? Do we get an explanation of that? Nope. They're just like, move on. So, like, is it like the Matrix where your own thoughts about what you look like and your personhood slowly changes over time, so that's just what he feels he looks like to the other R.I.P.D. people? Or is it just like, hey, you actually just gradually but very slowly age? Not clear. Don't worry about it. You're not getting an explanation from the movie. They don't retcon too many things. The have to shoot them in the head thing was retconned, where like you don't have to shoot them directly in the head. And they added some things that like you could theoretically have been like, okay, so that could have been a thing in the first movie that they just didn't get around to addressing. And then like how they make them pop in this movie is different, but what they use to pop them and how they like their popped nature is different, so you could justify it and be like, well, if you pop them this way, then that happens, but if you pop them the other way, then that happens. So there's not too many continuity errors. I feel like they added a bit more to the family aspect of Jeff Bridges' character. Like, it seemed like in this one, it was just like he was a husband, and that was kind of the main thing. And in this one, he is much more about his family, and then like how his like what happened to his body seemed like he witnessed it. Here, he didn't actually see it. And then like the actual contract and whatnot. So they change up the phrasings for some of the contract things, but that's fine. In general, I would say that they don't retcon too many things as to be distracting or just fucking weird, like how Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider 1 and 2 just completely retconned the entire origin story of the character that we are continuing from the first one. Okay, this movie did not do that. The other thing that I think that they did was they definitely leaned into the comedy aspect of it, which I thought was a good idea. This movie, I think, was more so supposed to be a comedy, and so when they made R.I.P.D. 2, they're like, hey, main people, play it as a comedy, because that's what it is. Cool. And I think everybody got the memo. So it's played as a comedy. What I don't think came off as well is that this movie, R.I.P.D. 1, being the comedy that it was, like whenever they had the bodies that they're inhabiting in the real world, whenever they showed those in R.I.P.D. 1, it was as a joke. It was to show the ridiculousness of like, oh look, it's the hot chick, and some guy's checking her out, and it's Jeff Bridges. He can say something funny. Or like, hey, it's the old guy. See, it's the funny old Asian guy. Isn't that funny? And it was funny with how they played it in that movie. And in this one, their real world bodies are a couple of black chicks. And they really heavily lead into not the funny part of it. There was very little funny part whenever they switched over to the real world. And to make matters worse, they had much more of the real world as perspective. Like in this movie, like 99% of the time, it was Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds, which is great because that's what I wanted to go see. I saw this movie and I was like, it's a sequel, it's trending, and oh look, it's got the guy from Burn Notice. I want to see that. And instead, basically anytime they had like the camera angle from the other character's perspective, even if it wasn't like supposed to be from the character's perspective, to like point out the weirdness of like, why are you saying your daughter? Like, even when it wasn't doing that aspect of it, just if the camera was like sort of eyeball angle-ish, anywhere towards from the character in the universe, it was showing the black chicks. And like, there was nothing wrong with them. They did their parts well. They worked it fine, but it was just, I went into this movie to see the guy from Burn Notice and whatever like cool hairstyle blonde chick that he had with him, and their interactions were the part that I was wanting, and the funniness came from them. And so I think they spent way too much time with their real world equivalents, almost to the point where it seemed like they almost had equal screen time, which I think was a detriment of the movie because you disconnect from the actors that we're supposed to be caring about, which is the guy from Burn Notice and whoever the Joan of Arc chick is. There was also some other guy who came in, and he was fun. He was funny. He made a lot of the good jokes. It was a fun time. So overall, I would say that this movie was more of a fun time than R.I.P.D 2, but they used too much of the real world alternate versions of themselves, and they also, especially for a comedy movie, I think that they did way too much preaching to you about the real world things that were going on. Like, what? People were fucking racist in the Old West? Color me shocked. Like, who could have expected that? Let's make some commentary on how things need to change and what we can do better as a society in this fucking comedy movie set in the Old West. Not the time or the place. You don't have to shove your shit down my throat every single fucking movie. Okay? So, this movie gets a thumbs down from me because too much of the real world characters, and they had too much of that, and then too much preaching of things that were not even like a Gossamer film. Like, that's how much they had. It's just a tiny Gossamer film of like, see, we're commenting on modern society, in case you didn't get it. Like, no, we got it. We got it real good. Thanks. Pulling me out of the comedy now. So, yeah. But what I will say is that I have heard that this movie, that this universe, the R.I.P. universe, is actually based on a comic book. I don't know for sure if that's true because I don't do comic books, but I want to say that it's probably that reason that they brought a lot more of the religious aspect into this one. Like, in this one, in the R.I.P.D. 1, it was all about, like, oh, the eternity, and oh, like, they never, I don't recall them using the word God in this one, or, like, doing things according to a specific religion. Like, there was no crosses, there was no holy this or holy that. It was just like, hey, we have these soul-killing bullets. Cool? Cool. And in this one, they're like, we have holy water, we have this blessed blade, we have the, like, crosses do things, and I'm betting that has to do with the comic book thing to make it more comic booky accurate. But if not, like, it was fine. I don't think it detracted at all from the overall movie. And like I said, back in the beginning, my long, droning explanation of, like, they didn't retcon too many things. And even all of these explanations, almost all of them, could fit within the R.I.P.D. 1 realm, just that because of how focused on the characters and the immediate thing that was happening was, we just didn't see it in this one, but the things can still align with how they happened in this one. Like, those aspects still could have been there, just not as important in R.I.P.D. 1, but more of a player in R.I.P.D. 2. So, yeah. CGI was fine. There wasn't as much of it. What happens when they popped, I think, looked a little better. The music wasn't distracting in a bad way at all. So yeah, overall, this movie is fine, but R.I.P.D. 1, because the two actors involved, got like a real soft thumbs up for me. This one gets a real soft thumbs down for me because there wasn't enough of the actors that I liked in this one. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.